All right, we're live. Good evening, everyone. How you guys doing today? Fantastic. It's lovely to have you here. Let me just let everyone know that we are good to go and we are live. We're continuing on our series, which is the Goal Getter Blueprint. How many of us are ready? The Goal Getter Blueprint. Yeah, just a bit of recap. 2 sessions ago, this is the third in the series. We started with the opening of the Go Getter Blueprint, and we started with the fact that you need to work from inside and out. That is, you first understand your identity by being who you are, knowing who you are. Then you have evolution, which is the will. Then you move to doing, then you move to having. You don't have before you do. You do before you have. Okay? And then we open with the first of the 7 C's that you need to cross. C's as in the letter C, where we talked about the first on the list was clarity. And the next that we dealt with last week was comprehension. If you missed any of this series, please go back and check it out and we'll be good to go. Today, we're taking it a notch higher and we're dealing with capacity. Once you have clarity on what your goal is, what you have set, and you can now comprehend it to know what exactly are the implications, the blessings, and the burdens of this goal that you have set, then you need to work on how do you eventually achieve this goal? How do you become the person that can achieve this goal? And to kickstart that session today or tonight, I'll be opening up with the famous Zig Ziglar quote that I've always quoted in the session, right? Zig Ziglar quoted, he said, set a goal so big that you cannot achieve it until you grow into the person who can. Good evening, everyone. Now, what does this mean? At some point in your journey towards setting and meeting that goal, you are actually going through an evolution. You are changing from the person who couldn't achieve that goal to the person who can. Now, what is happening in between the old you and the new you who can achieve that goal? And that is what we're dealing with today, which is the capacity. First, you need to evaluate the capacity that you have and the capacity that you need, and you also need to find a way to bridge that gap. Am I clear? How you move from the person that you are into the person that you need to be. So you set the goal so big that you cannot achieve it until you now evolve, you grow into the person who can. Now, guess what? You really don't know your own strength. We really don't. I don't know my own strength. I've said it a couple of times in this challenge, and I just want to remind us once again that before you make a conclusion or jump into conclusion about what you can or what you can't, you must understand that your capabilities are limitless. Your capacity is limitless. The things that you can do is actually limitless. Don't evaluate your capacity based on who you are presently. You need to evaluate your capacity based on the things that you are actually accessible to. And that is where most of us make the mistake. We oftentimes set our goals based on what we think we can humanly possibly achieve within this period. For instance, let's go financial today. I think we've been using more of physical goals in our previous sessions, but today we're going to be dealing with financial goals. Let's say this is the end of August. You've got 4 months to the end of this year. And I ask you, what exactly is your money vision for December 2023? Write it down. I'm sure you must have written it down at some point in your workbooks. But just for the sake of this session, I'm asking you again to say you've got 4 months before the end of this year. You've got September, you've got October, you've got November, you've got December. Now, before the end of December, what exactly is your picture of a money vision? Now, that figure you have in mind, if I ask you to double it, does it make you tremble? First, you wrote a figure based on your projections. Okay, the kind of sales you can make, the kind of income you can get, the kind of deals you can conclude on, and all that. And you came up with a tidy figure that you felt was comfortable or safe. That, okay, if I break it down within 4 months, I should be able to get this done. And I'm now telling you to double that figure. The first thing that happens is that it makes you uncomfortable because you are now shifting from the comfort zone that you have planned. You are shifting from your perception of what is realistic to now what you might consider unrealistic, because now I'm asking you to double your projections. The first thing you will do is you'll resist it. That is your reticular activating system fighting the unfamiliar, saying, no, 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 where am I going to get this figure from? How can it be possible in any way? Now, while I'm saying double it and you're becoming uncomfortable, I'm now asking you to triple it. Then you know that this guy has lost it. Forget it. All these motivational jargons, blah, 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 and all that. Many people will snap at that point. But hear me closely. What I'm asking you to do tonight is not only to define what is realistic, but I'm asking you to open your eyes to actually see what you are capable of. Tonight, we're dealing with capacity. And I'm opening up with the fact that you really don't know your own strength. Let's talk about the deception of single or self made success. Oftentimes, there is a default setting of pride in every one of us. No matter how much you claim to be moral, religious, or pious, or anything, there is some element of pride because everybody wants to talk about their achievements. Everybody wants to talk about their success. Everybody wants to talk about the things that they've been able to do by themselves. Everybody wants to talk about the fact that they were able to at least get some self inflicted confidence to get some things done. And the things that they get through external help, they don't feel the urge to brag about it because they know that it didn't come by themselves. That is why, by default, oftentimes we push the agenda of self made success. But I want to submit to you tonight that the concept of self made success is actually a deception. And I'll tell you why. There is nothing called self-made success because at some point on your journey to that success, you needed help, either directly or indirectly. Now, what kind of help are we talking about? Resources, human resource, intellectual resource, physical resource, material resource, technical resource, any kind of resource that you must have engaged on your journey to success is not everything that was self-provided. Fine, you might have been the driver of the vision, but the truth of the matter is you would have worked or collaborated with someone to make something happen. For instance, if you got your income from a sale, look at it this way. If there was no customer on the other side that was paying for the value that you were offering, you wouldn't have made that sale. Am I making sense? So there is no self made success in its actual contraption, it is an abstract. So if there is no self made success, how do we now evaluate the kind of success that we have, either great or small? And that is what I want to break down tonight. Now that you have counted the costs based on the last class that we had last week, when we were talking about evaluating the implications of your goals, counting the cost, using the analogy of the quantity surveyor, the architect, the event planner, and all that. You know the blessings of the goals that you want. Now you know the burdens, the implications of the goals that you are looking for, what it means to actually service those goals. When we talk about more money, more problems, big head, big headache. Now you're trying to craft an idea of that person that you need to evolve into so that you can achieve that goal. That is what we're dealing with tonight. You want to craft that persona, you want to craft that character that you need to grow into to become that person that can achieve that goal. First, how do you define this character? What kind of person is this person? You know that the person that you are right now, you're struggling, you're trying to get by in one area of your life. There are things that you need to fix. Everybody, we come into this safe space and we admit that we are not all that, because if you are really all that, you have no business in this challenge. If you've got your physical life going on, your emotional life going on, your spiritual life, everything is all a-okay and perfect, finances are fantastic, then you have no business here. But we all know that we all need help, myself inclusive. Now you know that the help that you need will require an evolution of self. But first, you need to paint that picture. Who is that person that you need to get into? And to paint that picture, you must understand what I want to talk about tonight, which is process. Please, somebody should write that down. You need to embrace the process. And what does that simply mean? It means that your goals need to first work on you before it works for you. Maybe you want to write that down. Process means that your goals need to first work on you before it works for you. Embrace the process. The journey to achieving your dreams is not a sprint. The journey to achieving your dreams is actually a marathon. Yes, it is a marathon. It could have been 100 days challenge, but you realize that by the time you are done after 100 days, you get to realize that you are just getting started. Because at the end of the day, it is a process. You need to become a better version of yourself to become the person that makes things happen in your life. That is one thing. Another thing you must also understand, moderator, I want you to write it down, is that life presents you keys before it presents you locks. Life presents you keys before it presents you locks. What do I mean by this? Every time in our lives, we're always conscious of the locks that we see. And what do I mean by locks? LOCKS. The things, the obstacles that we face, the hurdles that we have to cross, the problems that come our way, the oppositions, the resistance, and all that. We're always conscious of that. But we don't take note of the keys that life has actually presented to us before the locks showed up. What are these keys? These keys are opportunities. Opportunities. There are many times that we learn something, maybe we're in a conversation, we heard about something, only to find out that in the nearest future or the further future, we get to realize that we learned something or we come into a space and we will require the knowledge that we learned in a conversation to unlock that problem. That's what I mean by life presenting us keys before locks. Now, if we know that life presents us keys before locks, what we now need to do is to keep our senses more alert to the opportunities that come our way. Because oftentimes the opportunities that come our way, they don't dress like opportunities. In fact, they come disguised. The opportunities that come our way, they come disguised. At times they come by way of hardship. At times they come by, but it is not for us to open our eyes to say, why am I going through what I'm going through right now? Why is this happening to me right now? What is the lesson that I need to learn from this thing that is going on right now? It is until you subject yourself to those kind of circumstances that you begin to see further and begin to see the opportunities come out in those difficulties. And that is a very good clue. Whenever you encounter a difficulty, before you complain, let your opportunity radar kick in to say, what is going on here? What is the opportunity for me here? What is that thing that I need to learn here? Because you've heard it, like they say, the broken are the masters at mending. But they wouldn't have gotten to that mending state if they had not first been broken. If they have not been there before to say, I've been there before. So if you want to do this, this is how to go about it. This is what I mean by life presenting you keys before locks. Stay with me. We are still on the subject of capacity. And to build capacity, what I'm going to be teaching you today is how to look beyond your conscious ability. In previous sessions, I've taught you how to engage beyond your five senses. And I want you to make that your daily lifestyle, that in everything you do, you look beyond your five senses. You engage beyond your five senses. You begin to see the why beneath the why. You begin to not just see sight, but you see insight. You don't just hear sounds, but you hear instructions. You don't just smell things, but you breathe in opportunity. You get inspiration. You get instinct. You engage all your superior senses. And that helps you to wade through whenever you're trying to evaluate the kind of person who can become that goal achiever. It is then that you can realize that, oh, if I was actually doing a projection of achieving this figure before the end of the year, by the time I scale up my capacity, which I'm going to be talking about in this session, you realize that you can actually 10x your goals. You can 10x your input to 10x your output. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Now, let me break it down. The first level is hard work. Please write that down. Hard work is that bottom level where everybody starts from. Hard work is when you do things with manual efforts. They ask you to do something, the default setting is you have an idea of how to physically get it done. The manual labor, that is hard work. And there is nothing wrong with hard work because that is where everybody must start from. Your ability to do something by yourself, that is hard work. And that is manual labor. Now, there is a second level, which is smart work. Smart work is what you will call mechanical labor. That is when you don't just use your physical abilities, but you engage tools. Tools could be mechanized tools, it could be technical tools, it could be all kinds of tools. That is when you move from hard work to using tools to get things done, which is smart work. In some cases, it might be how to get it done in an automated fashion. Now, if you look at it, you realize that the capacity for hard work is lower than the capacity for smart work. True or false? Because the things that you could have done with your bare hands, by the time you start using tools, you realize that you can do more. Just reminds me of that word problem that we used to solve back in the days in elementary mathematics. That it says if it takes one farmer to cultivate a land in one day, how long will it take 10 farmers? You know, all this kind of stuff. But in this case, you're now using tools and it now becomes mechanical labor. The hard work is manual labor. The smart work is mechanical labor. Now, there is a third level. This third level is called network. Network has to do with you collaborating with people, building relationships, forging relationships, and now using what you will call mental labor. Now you've moved from manual labor to mechanical labor to mental labor. You've moved from hard work to smart work to network. Now that you understand that there are three levels of capacity, the question that comes to us now is, how do you work these levels? Because initially, when I asked about your goals, your default setting would have projected those goals based on your hard work, based on your manual labor. But when you realize that you can actually scale your capacity to smart work, you realize that you find reasons to believe that you can give yourself the mental permission to increase the goals that you can achieve. Not to now mention, if you now look at the network, which is now the mental effort that you can bring to bear to making your dreams come true, then you begin to see even more possibilities. And if you remember one of the sessions that I've had, and I've always been saying that keep watching your sessions again and again, because you really can't get everything at first watch. I told you many times I go back and watch my videos and I even learn new things that I write them down. I mentioned in one of the sessions that once the mind can settle on possibilities, it is then that the eyes begin to see opportunities. A very good example was the question I asked at the beginning of this session. I said, set a goal for this year. Let's assume the figure that you put down was $100,000. Let's just assume that the figure you put down $100,000, and I asked you to double it. And if I had said double it to $200,000, and that made you uncomfortable, the reason why it made you uncomfortable was because your mind didn't see the possibility of how you could make it happen. But when the mind was now introduced to smart work, to tools, to automation, to things that you can do better to add to your projections, then your mind becomes convinced, then the eyes start fishing out for opportunities. Now, and I took it a step further and I said you should triple your target for the year. Because you were still operating on a manual labor level, you tuned out and you thought I was just being a motivational jargon speaker. But by the time I now introduce you to the fact that you can actually network, you can collaborate, you can meet people, you can forge relationships, then the mind began to see possibilities. Then it now allowed the senses to go look out for opportunities. It is the same thing we're talking about here, that you really don't know your strength until your mind begins to get exposed to the things that is capable of harnessing. It is not about what is within you, it is about what you are accessible to. Write that down. It is not about what is within you, it is what you are accessible to. And that's what we're going to be dealing with tonight. Regardless of the goals that you've written down, what you now need to be penning down as you are drawing a map of your capacity is, what are you accessible to? Write that down to yourself and say, what am I accessible to? Many times we just do things based on what can I do by myself. It's time to stop thinking that way and start asking, what am I accessible to? All right? If you are working at the hard work level, which is level 1, you are working based on manual labor and you are operating majorly on your conscious thoughts. I hope you got that. If you are working on level 2, which is the mechanical labor, if you are working smart work, you are drawing resources from your subconscious thoughts. And if you are working on level 3, which is your network, what you are actually working on at that stage of your mental labor is you are drawing from your unconscious thoughts. I hope I'm not losing you yet. Just follow me through and just keep taking notes and you will go through them in a bit. I'll repeat. Level 1, which is hard work. At level 1, you are dealing with manual labor, physical exertions. And at that point in time, you are operating majorly from your conscious thoughts, what comes to mind at that very moment. Level two is smart work. At that level, you are operating on your mechanical labor function and you are running your programs mostly from your subconscious thoughts. Level three is your mental level where you're running your mental labor, you are collaborating, that is network. It is at that level you are working from your unconscious thoughts. Okay? Now that we've gotten that part out of the way, let's go deeper. How many of us are following so far? If you're following, let me just know that you're following, type that you're following, because I'm not seeing anybody commenting so far. Maybe you guys are busy taking notes. It's okay. But I also want to get the feedback from you to know that you're following. All right. Now let's take it a little deeper. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Now you understand the level of capacities that you're exposed to or that you're accessible to. Now, how do you work it? The first stage, which is that stage of hard work, the stage of manual labor, the stage of consciousness, the first thing you need to do is to build you. Build you first. Write that down. Build you first. Or you can say, build me first. Personalize it. That is the first thing that you need to do. Build me first. And what does it mean to build me first? What exactly am I capable of doing? What exactly is the gap between where I am and what I need to be? Building me first involves going back to level, the first C, which is clarity. How clear am I regarding where I'm going? Comprehension. How much have I evaluated the implication of what I need to do? Then, what exactly is that person that I need to become? If you check out your workbook, you'd realize that most of the answers to these sessions have already been laid out or designed in the pages of your workbook. What are those failure codes that you have been running on, you've been operating on for so long, that you need to start expunging yourself of? Have you written them down? What are the success codes that you need to run on to overwrite those failure codes? Have you written them down? What are your disempowering lifestyles that you need to cut down? Have you written them down? What are the empowering lifestyles that you need to start adopting? Have you written them down? What are the things that you need to do more of? Have you written them down? What are the things that you need to do less of? Have you written them down? What are your power moves on a daily basis? Have you written them down? What are those little increments of progress that you build into your activity that end up becoming a lump sum of significant achievement? Are you writing them down? There's also a place where I said, what are your new neural pathways for today? What are those new things that your mind is registering? You can go and Google what new neural pathways mean. The neural pathways, I can just give you an illustration using a bush path. In the jungle, where you have bushes and all that, you realize that the places where people actually walk past, before the place becomes a bush path, that place was actually covered with vegetation, right? When people walk through that path for the first time, they will trample on shrubs, trample on grass, and all that to walk past that path. But the thing does not become a path just because someone walked that path for just one time. Because if you trample on shrubs, trample on grass, and all that, once you are done, those things can rise back and grow again and flourish. Some might die, some might recover, and all that. But it doesn't convert that place into a bush path. What converts a jungle into a bush path is repetition and intensity. When people begin to walk that path again and again, again and again, again and again, you find that they've trampled on these shrubs today, they trampled on it tomorrow, they trampled on it the next day, and over and again. Before it knows happening, that place will just become submissive to the fact that it seems they want to turn me into a bush path, and it becomes a bush path. That is how neural pathways are formed in the mind. I hope I'm making sense tonight. If I'm making sense and you're following, just let me know. In the brain is a network of unopened paths, is a complex crochet of traffic highways and all that. But the highways can only be opened when there is consistent passage. And what is that passage? Flow of data, flow of information. How does flow of information come from? We've dealt with it like 2-3 sessions ago. Information comes from the universe as vibration. You tap into information, you tap into data either through your physical senses or through your supernatural senses. When you meditate on that data again and again, again and again, again and again, again and again, then it forms a neural pathway. Any new learning becomes a neural pathway that is etched into the mind. It becomes like a groove. Before, that path was plain, but the more people walk on that path again and again, it begins to form a groove. That becomes a new neural pathway in the mind. So you realize that between the old you and the new you, there need to be some neural pathways being formed. Between the old you and the new you, there need to be some power moves being made. Between the old you and the new you, there needs to be some tools being gathered. Between the old you and the new you, there need to be some collaborations being formed. This is what it means to set a goal so high that you can achieve it until you grow into the person who can. And that is what we're dealing with tonight. How do you scale your capacity? The first thing you need to build is yourself. In fact, on building yourself, I can talk about that for a long time, but we don't have much time because we want to keep these sessions within 1 hour plus as much as possible. But you must understand that the first person you can work on is yourself. And what does it mean to work on yourself? You must understand you have a choice. Never let anybody lie to you that this is who you are and you don't have a choice. You can be anything you want to be if you choose to go for it. When we're talking about being, willing, doing, and having, a couple of sessions ago, that willing part is your prerogative given to you by your creator himself, God. God has given everyone a choice. Nobody is born shy. You choose to be shy. Nobody is born dumb. You choose to be dumb. Nobody is born smart. You choose to be smart. I'm shaking tables. Everything you are is what you choose. When we're born on this world, we came at default setting, factory settings. It's just like a phone. I've used the analogy of a phone many times. You can have like 3 brand new phones right now. If you have 3 brand new phones and you give it to Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, brand new, factory settings, all the 3 phones have same specifications, same settings. But I can tell you for free that what those phones end up doing will be subject to the choices that the owners of those phones make. How many of us agree to that? You've got three phones, same specifications, and they were given to three different users. The functions or the things that those phones do will eventually, in 1 year, will be different. What user A will do with the phone is different from what user B will do with the phone, is different from what user C will do with the phone. And those three things are subject to the choices of the user. It has nothing to do with the specification of the phone. I'm going deeper tonight. Now, flip the script for a second and picture yourself as that brand new phone. Everybody was born to this world, same spec, same specification. Now you have three permutations to work with. You have your nature, which could be your genetic code that was contributed by your parents. You have your nurture, which could be your upbringing, the influence around you, the hands that raised you, the teachers that taught you, the friendships you made, and all that. You also have your nurture, which is the environment that you saw every now and then, the environment that you exposed your five senses to growing up. Those are the three permutations that end up determining the kind of choices you make and the kind of output that you get for yourself. The truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter if you were born with a spoon or without a spoon. With the choices you make, with the nature you have, with the nurture you have, and the neighborhood you have, you can actually turn out different. That speaks to building you. Now, we've dealt with that thus far, and we have made to understand that it doesn't matter the day you realize that, oh my goodness, so this is why I am like this. It doesn't matter. It is the day of revelation for you. It shouldn't be the day of condemnation. It should be the day you realize that, okay, now that I know that I am the architect of my life, then it's time to take the right turn going forward. This is not the time to go back and blame your parents and say your parents are responsible for not giving you a spoon when they gave birth to you. No, they've done their job. It's time to pick up the plate and move on. Build yourself. What kind of books are you studying? What kind of courses are you studying? There are millions and millions of free courses out there. Which one have you subscribed to? What are your plans to developing yourself? What are your plans to attracting the goal that you want? What are your plans to stretching yourself? Because building yourself involves stretching. Every night that you go to sleep, you grow. Your skin tissues expand and contract. Then after a month, your skin cells fall off. New skin cells are formed. In a week, your fingernails grow. You cut them off. Things are happening on a daily basis. What are you doing with this opportunity? The hair on your head grows. Your facial hair grows. Everything around you grows. But what kind of growth are you experiencing inside? Are your growth only outside? These are the questions you should ask yourself. How do I build myself? Or do I continue with the rat race of I have to go to work, I have to come back home, I have to pay the bills, I have to be in traffic, I have to. Do you want to be a subject of life for life? Do you want to be a subject of life for the rest of your life? Or do you want to, at some point, snatch yourself from life and say, today is the day that I get back control of my life? Because the truth of the matter is, you are actually the one in control of your life. Don't let your external forces control your life. This is very important. So, number one, you build you first. As you are building yourself, another thing you must build is your ability to attract people. Many of us, we feel I'm an introvert. There's nothing called introvert. It is a choice. I've come here to destroy those tables. There are so many things that we have adopted and we have assumed that we have no control over. It is not true. It is actually a choice you make. You make a choice to be an introvert. You make a choice to be an extrovert. You make a choice to be relatable. You make a choice to be repulsive. You make a choice to be friendly. You make a choice to be unfriendly. It is a choice. It is not who you are. It is a choice you made. Don't blame it on what doesn't exist. Blame it on your choices you made. Everything is a choice. This is the free gift from God. God created everybody and He gave them choices. Even if you have different genetic codes, if you have different personality types, you still have a say in the matter. You still have a choice to choose the kind of person you want to be. I can only say this because I am a testimony. I am telling you from my personal experience that at some point I got to realize that I actually have a choice. By personality trait, I am a melancholy. In fact, I am a blend of a male son. But my male, when I was growing up, my melancholy traits were very, very heavy. I only talk to myself. I enjoyed my company. I don't relate to people. I don't mix with people. I don't hang around people. I just be by myself. I love to be within my world. You can lock me up in a room for 3 weeks and I won't complain. That was me. But guess what? I chose to come out of that room. I chose to meet people. I chose to be friendly. I read a book that changed my life over 20 years ago, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a very popular book. I recommend that book. It was that book that brought me out of myself, that in this world, there is nothing called self-made success. You need people. How can you attract people if you are not attractive? There's some things you need to build about yourself. There is nothing called I am not a leader person. I'm not a leader type of person, or I'm not a follower type. You can choose what you want. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying any choice is right or wrong, but I'm just saying that whatever it is your choice. And don't complain about your choice. Some people tend to be administrative in nature. Some people tend to be strategic in nature. But however way it is choice. It is not something conferred on them. It is a choice because you can choose to be both administrative and strategic. It is a choice. So when we're talking about capacity tonight, I want you to know that you don't even know your own strength. We have grown up all our lives to believe that the outcomes that we found ourselves is actually who we are. Kisera say, destiny, it is who I can't do anything about it. That is a lie. You can actually do much more than you think. It starts with mental permission. You can choose to learn music. You can choose to learn to be a pilot. You can choose to learn robotic science. You can choose to learn medicine. You can choose to learn law. You can choose to learn psychology. You can choose anything you want in this life, no matter how divergent they are. The only thing you need is to give yourself mental permission. Like I said, I can talk about building yourself for a whole day, but I want us to move to the next place. Let me sum it up there. That in building yourself, you must understand that the choice is yours. Never subscribe to the fact that whatever you find yourself doing is all there is to you. You can be whatever you want to be. I've seen people in their 80s, in their 90s, and that is when they choose to go bungee jumping. That's when they choose to write a book. That's when they choose to do amazing things. You can do so much. The choice is yours. Number two, build structure. Number one is build yourself. Number two, build structure. Now, what is structure? This is a word that has been often bastardized, abused, and all that, so much that people don't understand the meaning. Structure simply means you are creating offices, you are creating roles, you are creating teams, you are creating personalities that will get your job done. You know your dreams, you know your goals, you are clear about it, you've done the clarity test, you have comprehended it, you've done the comprehension test. Now you're at the place of capacity. You're now asking yourself, what are the kind of personnel or character or skills that will be required to bring these goals to pass? That is what you're dealing with. That is what you're referring to as structure. Let's say, for instance, we're talking about money today. Okay, structure. You need a selling skill, because before there can be exchange of value, there needs to be a sale, a selling skill. So selling is a structure. Before selling can take place, there needs to be a need assessment, a need analysis, a need satisfaction, and all that. That is marketing. You need a marketing skill. You need customer service, because marketing in itself is traffic, nurture, and transaction. That is what I actually do beyond this beyond this 100 days challenge. So I can speak about this a bit. That if you want to make money, you cannot hide from selling. You are either selling your value, you are selling your products, you are selling your service, whatever it is, you must sell it. And before you can sell it, you must market it. And before you can market it, you must relate to the people that are buying them from you. Or else you can't eat your product by yourself. So, speaking of financial goals, those are the structures that you need to put in place. You're putting a selling structure in place. You're putting a marketing structure in place. You're putting a customer service structure in place. You're also putting a value proposition structure in place. What do I mean by value proposition? The value itself that you are selling. How do people see value in it? That's the value proposition structure. And you can go on and on by setting up the different things that will make these things work, that will make the sales happen. That is structure. So if you want to call it office, you need a sales officer, you need a marketing officer, you need a customer service officer, you need a value proposition officer, which you can also call a business development officer or whatever it is. But the point I'm trying to make is that you need to set up structure. Now, structure has nothing to do with people. Structure is simply the office or the titles. Am I making sense? These are the teams. These are the things that will get the job done. These are the qualifications. So that it is when you now have an idea of a structure, it is then that you can now go to the market on a recruitment drive. I say, okay, we have a job opening for the role of a sales officer. We have a job opening for the role of a marketing person. We have a sales opening, a job opening for the role of, because you have already established structure. You don't go recruiting if you don't have structure of the offices you want them to occupy. That's what I mean by building structure. Today, we might be talking about finances. Tomorrow, it could be physical. For you, it could be emotional. For you, it could be spiritual. In whichever direction it is, it could be environmental. Set up structure. Build structure. What are the skills required to achieve these goals? That's what I mean by building the structure. Let's move on to the third one. Number three, you build systems. Now, many people don't know the difference between systems and structure. And so at times they mix it together, they confuse it, and they interpolate it. But I want you to understand it today. And I'm going to use an analogy that will make it as clear as day for you. Now, systems are the tasks and activities that need to be done by the structure. So you build yourself first, then you build structure, then you now build systems. Systems are the tasks that need to be done. Systems are set of activities. Systems are action points that have a clear-cut, predictable order. For instance, when they say, what is the systems for doing this? System, what makes it a system is that when you do this, this gets done. When you do this, this gets done. When you do this, this gets done. And once this is done, this it affects this, it affects that. Then it becomes repeatable, it becomes predictable. That is when it becomes a system. And the thing about system is its automative ability. It is done in such a way that with or without one person, as long as the elements of the systems are put in place, it can run. That is why you need to install systems on structure. So if your structure is the hardware, your systems become the software. Does that make sense? The structure are the offices or titles that gets the job done, while the systems are the jobs themselves that need to be done in such a way that everything goes like clockwork. Does that make sense? So you, as the person that needs the dream achieved, you are the coordinator. Number one, you are building yourself to be a strong coordinator, to have an eye for systems, eye for structure, eye for vision. You know what you want. You see from every point of view. You know where the gaps are and how they need to be filled. You know how to relate to people. You know how to influence people. You know how to go out of yourself to explore all the choices that you have. And you're not limited to the things that you do to say, this is who I am, but you can become who you want to be. Then you now go ahead and build the structure and now build the systems that make them work. Now, if you are not a relatable person, you might not be able to get these things done. Now, let me use an analogy to stitch these three things together. The human being, as we are physically, we are made up of many systems. There are many systems that run in us that make us work. You've got the digestive system that takes care of our food. You've got the reproductive system that takes care of our procreation. You've got the nervous system that takes care of our mind. You've got the endocrine system. You've got all kinds of systems. Now, the question is, how do these things work? They need structure. Structure, you can also refer to structure as infrastructure, if you get the point now. Those are the things that actually carry out the work. For instance, if you look at the circulatory system, the structure that makes circulatory system works is the network of arteries, network of veins, and the heart that pumps the blood, and so on and so forth. Those are structure. But the system is the flow and the direction of blood from the heart into the heart, whether it's the auricles or the ventricles or any of all those parts of the circulatory system, how it goes around the body, how it gets oxygenated and how it gets deoxygenated. I don't want to bore you with the science of things, but by the time you realize how blood moves about your body, that movement is the system, while the organs are the structure. That is why oftentimes you hear in corporate world, they say, what is your organogram? Do you get it now? Your organogram is an illustration of your structure. Because the organ, they are the offices and titles that get the job done. The systems are the tasks that are being done by these organs. I hope it makes sense now. So using the analogy of the human body and how things work, you realize that the organs are the structure, while the systems are the flow or the systemization of activities that need to be done. Let's go. We'll soon be wrapping up in a bit. But I hope all that I'm saying so far is making sense and I've not lost you, because I'm also trying to rush so that we can keep it um, pretty tight within the time frame that we have. So we've talked about building yourself first. We've also talked about building structure, and we talked about building systems. Now let's talk about relationships. Relationships for me is one of the secrets to lasting wealth. I repeat, relationships is one of the biggest secrets to lasting wealth. And I'll tell you why. On the planet, humans, we have a record on the average 8 billion people on the planet, more or less. 8 billion people on the planet. That already speaks to 8 billion sets of needs, 8 billion problems, 8 billion questions, 8 billion gaps, 8 billion opportunities. Do you see where my mind is going? That is the way your mind should work. So that anybody you see around you is a question mark that is looking for an answer. Anybody you see around you, everybody on this call right now, everybody is a question mark. Everybody is a problem to be solved. Everybody is looking for an answer. So if you can find the answers, you found the wealth. Now, guess what? In the story of creation, according to the Bible, one person was initially made after everything else was made for him. Water, vegetation, animals, everything all set. Then man was placed in this system. And God said, it is not good for man to be alone, because a single man, initially when I thought about that part, I used to think that it meant that the man needed a spouse. That was my initial thoughts. But it is when I now gave it a deeper thought and I realized that when God was saying it is not good for man to be alone, he wasn't referring to getting a spouse for the man. He was referring to the fact that there is so much wealth in abundance in the universe that if it is only one man that is available, that man will not be considered wealthy. That man will actually be considered poor. Hey, I don't know if someone got that. Your measure of wealth, value cannot be measured by someone, by you. Value can only be measured by someone else. So if there was only one person on planet Earth, that person would have been very, very poor, because there wouldn't have been anybody to tell the person how valuable he is or how valuable she is, irrespective of the gender. So when God was saying it is not good for man to be alone, he's saying if man is alone, he's going to be very poor and miserable. Our wealth is buried in relationships. The reason why he gave the man a spouse was not just for company, was because of 8 billion people that needed to manage the abundance of resources on planet Earth. And that is just 8 billion in our time. Only God knows what it would be like in 1,000 years if this world still exists. There is so much abundance that the only person that can evaluate or measure the value of wealth will be people, not person. So that's why they say your network is your net worth. So the person that can actually measure the value you have is the person that is looking at you from outside. You cannot tell the value that you have. It is for instance, if you have something that you want to sell, let's assume, like I'm always using things around me as an illustration. I have this thing I want to sell. The person that can buy this thing from me can only pay for it according to the person's perception of value. I wrote a book just shortly before COVID, How to Boost Your Sales Value. I'm sure some of you here must have read the book. And I made it clear there is a science to value. And value is not measured by the person that is selling, value is measured by the person that is buying. Because I can tell you that, oh, this thing is $1,000. But if you have a different opinion, it is your value, it is your perception of value that becomes your perception of value. Same thing with this world. If you want to achieve 10x of your goals, you don't need one person. You need people. You need an army. Someone put it down. You need an army. Say, I need an army. Write it down. Because what I'm trying to awaken in you tonight is how to scale your capacity exponentially. Say, I need an army. By the time you go back to your meditation bed and you begin to think about it, you begin to see the different structures that you need to build: infantry, cavalry, artillery, and all that, the different army of structure that you need to build, and the kind of systems that you need to work into this army to begin to make things happen. I'll use a very good analogy. Excuse me. Between last week and this week, somewhere along the line, I knew that I was going to break this group down into nuclear groups. But someone triggered it and I said, okay, you know what? Since I'm going to be taking capacity this week, let me even try and experiment it. Between last week, when it was just one to many, imagine what I've been able to achieve when it was just one to many. Now we have scaled capacity by building structure. What is this structure? Group leaders empowered to now manage groups of 10 each. And they have been given systems. What is the system? Make sure everybody in your group pair up with one another and look out for one another. Every week they swap. And these are the things that you need to make sure, amongst other things, ask about this question, ask about that question, ask about this question, ask about that question, and ask about this question. Those 5 top questions, those are systems. The people that ask those questions, the people that run the group, those are structures. Now, would you agree with me that between last week and this week, the level of engagement in this challenge has grown exponentially? Who agrees with me? That's what I'm talking about. I want you to take the same template and apply it to your dreams and say, okay, now that I have a clear picture of my dream, what are the things that I need to do to scale up exponentially? What are the things that I need to do to begin to use the resources that I am accessible to? That it is not just me now, it is about what I am accessible to. Because if it's just me alone, one will chase 10,000. But if I raise up an army, two will put 10,000 to flight. You need to work on the capacity that is required to make this dream come true. Relationships are very important. You must learn to feed relationships. Any relationship that you do not feed will die. Now I'm teaching how to nurture relationships. You must learn to nurture relationships at every opportunity. But first, you must have worked on yourself. Because one of the things you also learn on your journey is also how to be influential. It is very important. You must learn the power of influence. And what is influence? Influence is simply selling your idea to somebody until that idea becomes that person's idea and the person can just execute it as if it's his own idea willingly. Not because they have to, but because they want to. That is influence. And that would involve a great deal of empowerment and a great sense of security. I'll give an example. By now, almost everybody will know Karen in the group, even though I wasn't interested in mentioning names. And apologies to you if you're listening. You'd realize that I must let you know that she doesn't work for me. She's not a member of my team. She's just as regular as everyone else in this challenge. But she made herself available to take on roles that was given to her, and she delivered successfully. And say, okay, take on another role, and she delivered successfully. That's why she's doing what she's doing, and she's not being paid 1 cent for it. She doesn't work for my company. She doesn't work for me. She's just someone that was appointed to say, you know what, take this up. And guess what? All I did was to say, this is the vision. I tried as much as possible not to tell her how to run it. I empowered her to use her initiatives. Everything she did by herself. I'm not involved. There are times she brings some things to me to check on them and I provide guidance, but I gave her the latitude. Now, these groups have been set up. I am not in any of the groups. Why? I don't need to. Someone suggested that she should be added to the group. It's fine. But guess what? She is doing what I would have been. If I tried to do what she's doing, I would have burnt out in 100 places. Guys, you must learn to delegate and empower your delegates. Now, guess what? Even though I had given her that job, her job is even the easiest because guess what she's doing? She is equally delegating. I gave one person a charge, that person has given maybe 10 or more people charge, and those 10 more people are now giving charge to manage 10 people. You're managing 10 leaders managing 10 people. You can see the exponential outcome of this idea of scaling your capacity. But if I was not influential, if I was not the kind of person anybody wants to work with, I would not be able to give that instruction. You see what I mean now when I'm talking about working on yourself first, to be the kind of person that people want to work with. Because if you work on yourself and you're good enough, and if your idea is good enough, people go after good ideas. Don't worry about resources. Worry about your vision. Worry about yourself. Once you are good, once your vision is good, the people will show up. Maybe someone needs to write that down tonight. Once you are good, once your vision is good, the enablers of that vision will show up. And it is this same template that we are adopting in this system that I also want everybody to adopt for their dreams. This is a free challenge. But the reason why I brought it so free is because if I had billed for it, The people that would need this training would not be able to afford it. But I can believe that you guys are learning something. And I want you to take this learning because it is not just information, it is about application. I want you to apply it to every area of your lives. What is that dream for you? Is it emotional life? Break it down. What exactly is my emotional state? What kind of emotional state do I want to get? What do I need to make it happen? Who do I need to collaborate with? What learnings do I need to build? What knowledge do I need to, it's the same principle. Nurture relationship. Nurture relationships at every opportunity. Don't forget, I mentioned that life presents you keys before locks. There are some relationships I'm nurturing in this challenge. I don't know when I'm going to use them. For all you care, all of you that are in this group, you are my keys for a future that I don't know yet. And not just for me, you guys are supposed to collaborate with one another. You're in groups of 10. It makes it even easier for you guys to collect each other's phone numbers and know more about one another. Nurture relationships. And relationships are not just meant to be transactional, they are meant to be relational. It is when they are first relational that you can now get transactional benefits. Know about one another. What are your questions? What are your concerns? What are your challenges? What are your fears? What are your problems? What are your aspirations? What are your goals? What are the setbacks? How can I help? That is how to do business. But if every relationship is collect, 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 that relationship would dry out and would die. Relationships are meant to be empowered, nurture relationships. As you do it horizontally, you can also do it vertically. If you want to strengthen relationships with high net worth individuals, it is the same method. Feed into those relationships. It's not every relationship you get into, urgent 2K, you want to collect, you want to collect. No. There's some relationships you just get into that space. You know that this kind of person, anybody that comes into their office, 9 out of 10 people that come into their office, they want to come and collect. If they're not collecting contract, they are collecting handout, they are collecting package, they are collecting my son's school fees and all that. You can come from a different approach and say, sir, I didn't come to collect today. I came to give. What can I do for you? Can I help with your car? Can I help with your files? Can I help with your account? Can I help you audit? Can I help you bookkeeping? Can I help you with your schedule? How can I help? That should be the kind of questions that come out of your mouth that helps you to open doors for relationships. Don't forget, life presents you keys before locks. And keys are bound everywhere. They are in people, they are in things, they are in circumstances, they are in situations. Nurture relationships. Now, let's talk about the power of other people's stuff. I love this part. Other people's stuff. First, I've established the fact that it is not good for man to be alone. So, never in your life think that you can go through things alone. If you go through life alone, you are getting a very small fraction of the benefit of life. God has designed this life for every one of us to interact. That is when we can actually get the true wealth out of life. Someone said something. He said, if everything you have is everything you bought by yourself, you are very poor. If everything you have is everything you bought by yourself, you are very poor. If you can't say, oh, this was a gift, oh, this was a true relationship, oh, this was if you can't find an aspect of your life that someone poured into you, you are very poor. Because no one was designed to be an island. I used to make a quote that in the door to your next level in life, the door to your next level in life has only one knob, and that knob is on the other side. That means the door to your next level is not opened by you. Someone needs to open the door for you. If you want to go to some levels in life, there are some levels that you go to that you're not the one that will open the door for yourself. Someone will have to open the door for you from the other side. A recommendation, a vote of confidence, a referral to say, we can use this person. I mean, look at what happened with the political system in Nigeria, because I know I'm talking to a global audience. Many people that are taking cabinet offices now, many of them were sent for without even knowing. There are some people that they've been lobbying for the post all along, and there are so many people that they didn't see it coming. It is somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who placed a call and invited them to dinner. Be good and have a good vision. The power of other people's stuff is amazing, because the wealth of this world, if you are thinking in abundance, and that's where I'm heading to now. If you are thinking abundance, you will understand that you don't even have the capacity to bear the abundance of this earth. So if you are thinking of what you are capable of bearing, your thinking is small. I remember one session when I used the analogy of the frying pan and the fish. But this time I'm going beyond frying pan and fish. I'm talking about what you are capable of doing. If the dreams that you have are the dreams that you can single-handedly handle, that dream is very small. It's very shallow. Before you know, the way to know if your dream is beyond you is when you look at the kind of army that you are pulling to yourself whenever you share your vision. Then you know you're up to something. Because no dream is meant to be achieved alone. You need an army. You need structure. You need systems. You need relationships. People need to open the door from you from the top. People need to open the door from you from below. People need to open the door for you even horizontally. Look at Dangote. Will you say Dangote is a self-made success? Absolutely not. The wealthiest people on earth, they admit that they are not self-made success. There is always a government policy that will favor you. There's always somebody who knows who mentions your name at the top. There's always there is always collaborations. And that is where I want us to be at our levels. Enough of thinking from outside in. Oh, purchasing power is low. Oh, the problem is the price of fuel. Oh, there's no money in my pocket. Oh, this new government, we don't know what they're up to. Oh, this, all those are external factors. Stop thinking outside. Think inside. Tune in. Your answers are within. Your economy is not the same as the economy of the country where you operate. When you think within your mind, in your mind, you will get revelation, the people to relate with, the associations to belong to, the structure you need to build, the systems you need to put in place, the people you need to collaborate with, the army you need to raise, the things you need to do, the favor you need to get. That is how you build true wealth. It's over an hour, so let me start wrapping up. As I round off, I just want to remind us that everything that you can achieve is according to the power that is at work in you. It is still you. It is according to the power that is at work in you. I made the analogy of three different people being handed three smartphones. You can do different things with the smartphones according to the power, according to the choices that you make. Some people, the phones can just be for receiving calls and going on WhatsApp. Some people, the phones can be just for social media engagement and all that. Some people, the phone could be a video editing tool. Some people, it could be a surgery analysis. the kind of apps you even download on your phone gives you an idea of the kind of things that you can do with your phone. Same specifications, but everybody starts at ground zero. Nobody was born an astronaut. Nobody was born a rocket scientist. Nobody was born a neurophysicist. Everybody started at ground zero. You are what you are based on the choices you made. So that part in scripture that says that unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above what we ask, think, or imagine, it has a clause. That clause is according to the power that is at work within you. And the analogy as I close is, let me use this pouch. Imagine that this pouch is a reservoir of the exceedingly abundantly infinite resource. And this is you. If you plug in a straw into this pouch, the power that you can get out of this pouch is subject to the diameter of that straw. Did you get what I'm trying to say? If this is the diameter of the straw that you plug into this pouch, the power that you can get out of it can only be within the limits of this straw. Now, imagine you change this and you bring out a bigger pipe. Let's assume this is another pipe, and you plug it to this infinite resource. The power that you can get out of this resource is according to the diameter of this new pipe. So the issue is not with the resource, which is abundant and infinite. The issue is with you, the choices you make. How much can you draw out of this infinite resource? And that is what I want to submit with you tonight. That if you put in a 10 mm diameter hose into this pipe, the power that you draw out of it cannot exceed 10 mm thickness. If you put in a 4-inch pipe, the power that you draw out of it cannot be more than 4-inch pipe. If you put in an 8-inch pipe, it is according to the power that is at work with you. But it doesn't negate the fact that it is exceedingly, abundantly, infinite, and all that. But it is you that you need to scale up the capacity that you can draw from this resource. So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I've been able to stir up some things in you tonight that you need to go back and work on your army. So as you jump right into WhatsApp from here, I want you to go back there and populate the group with that statement, I am raising an army. I am raising an army. Because for your dreams, you need an army. I need an army. We need an army. I am raising an army. That should be your watchword as you open your page, your workbook tonight, and you begin to feel your power moves for tomorrow. You begin to say to yourself, I am raising an army, because this is beyond me. Maybe for the first trimester of this challenge, I've been thinking about me, myself, and I. But as we move on to the second trimester of this challenge, you begin to think in armies. You begin to think in relationships. You begin to think in skills. You begin to think in quantums. You begin to think in exponential degrees. You begin to think in, I can't do this by myself. I need to get people. When Peter, apologies that I'm going a bit of scripture today, I'm a man of faith, and I can't apologize for that. When Peter began to get results that was beyond his capacity, in scripture, we're meant to understand that he had to signal to collaborators to come with their empty ships to come and pack as much resource as he was packing, because his own ship began to sink. That is where we need to get to. I don't want you, as you go into tomorrow, as you go into this week, as you go into September, I don't want you to think about how much is in your pocket anymore. If you have been mindful about your bank account, you need to change your attention. I don't know why I'm being led to say this. Let me just say this as we close tonight. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. If your attention is going into the limited size of your wallet, that is where your energy will flow to. Let your attention be going into the army you need to raise, and watch how things begin to shift in the atmosphere. It is energy, it's vibration. You begin to vibe on a different level, and all of a sudden, you just realize that people that you've always known from way back your secondary school, from way back when, you find out that you don't see them as your old schoolmate anymore now. You see them as collaborators. Even people in this room, people in this group, friends that you're going to make in the course of the week. Because when the students are ready, the teacher will appear. The moment you begin to work on your army, all of a sudden, people will begin to walk towards you. And you just realize that, oh my God, I've been looking for this kind of person in my life. Oh, so this is what you do. I've been looking, things will just start happening. But when you're ready, guys, let's go build that capacity. So, on that note, get on WhatsApp and say, I am raising an army. All right? Love you guys and have yourselves a lovely week ahead. Please, you can come back as many times as possible and watch this video again and again. You can even share it with friends outside this challenge, because it's a free challenge. That's why I've chosen to make the video public. So even if you're not in the challenge, but you can watch on any of these things, you can benefit from it. Share with friends. You're free to do that. And you're free to watch this thing again and again, again and again, until it sinks. Repetition breeds retention. All right? Good night, everybody. Cheers.